And the Bax is back. Welcome back to the No Morning Show here on TTT. I am Natalie Lagore, and in today's The Spotlight, former Police Service Commission Chairman former member of the Police Service Commission, Martin George, to talk to us about the new Police Service Commission that was sworn in yesterday at President's House, and just what is going to happen. And of course, the question that we've all been asking, and I still don't have the answer to, is where the merit list gone? Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning to you, Natalie, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. So where do you think the merit list gone, Martin George? Because I think you're probably just as curious as I am. But if you had to hazard a guess, you think there's still a merit list floating around somewhere there?
Well, I would imagine that within the bosom and the belly and bowels of the Police Service Commission Secretariat, because there is a full-time secretariat that services the Police Service Commission, I would imagine somewhere there and within the notes, documents, records, minutes of the former Police Service Commission, there must be some evidence to show what that merit list was, what it was comprised of, whose names were on the list. Or you could go back to the minutes of the meetings where they would have sat and decided to compile the list. So I think any which way you look at it, the evidence must be there somewhere to show what was on that list, whose names were on that list. The question is, what does this new commission do with that list, and how do they treat with it going forward? I saw Mr. Gary Griffith has already sent a letter through his attorney to the new chairman, so she has to hit the ground running. But of course, she's more than capable of dealing with these issues, because she actually, if you recall, was the judge who sat on the challenge which was brought by former deposed Police Service Commission chairman Nizam Mohammed when he was removed from office following the debacle which occurred in Parliament, and Justice Judith Jones was the judge who sat on that matter.
Right, but I think the question becomes, if that information exists somewhere within the PSC, do you believe that it is prudent that this new service commission continues with that merit list, or just start over the process?
Well, the thing is, I would think that it's best if they be allowed to investigate and find the facts. In other words, if it is that they go in and they look at it and they find that, look, regardless of all the brouhaha which has occurred surrounding this, merit list, if they find that notwithstanding this, the process appears to be intact and the whole procedure, retains its integrity, they may very well decide, well, look, yes, we can now resurrect, revive and bring back this merit list and present it to the president. Of course, that will be fraught with its own legal challenges and, hurdles, which I am sure they will have to contemplate before making any such decision. They may otherwise decide, look, there's too much negativity and too much, hubris surrounding this matter and this merit list, and they may decide to start the process all over again. That in itself will also attract possible litigation from those who may feel, well, look, I was doing very well with that previous merit list, so why are you starting over the process?
Right.
So I think either way they will end up impaled on the horns of a dilemma, and it's really a situation of Hobson's choice.
But I mean, how do we get the former Police Service Commission to just talk to the public? Aren't there any grounds on which, it can be challenged, this silence that really and truly has us without so many answers as to what really happened, why the list was withdrawn, and where that list is now? Why should this new service commission have to be on this witch hunt to find out what really happened?
Well, and not just that, the point is whether they like it or not, they actually end up inheriting the baggage of the previous service commission, the previous police service commission, because the memory is fresh in the minds of the public. Everybody knows, all that, was spilled out and, vomited out in the public space. So therefore, it's not an easy scenario, and they basically have the role of going in there to clean up the mess, to basically try to stuff the gobal back into the cow, and then try to see if they can make sense of it going forward. But I think one of the things that would do them well is if they adopt a different approach and start communicating with the public in a timely, relevant, and credible manner. That was one of the flaws and failings of the former Police Service Commission, because the point is they ended up treating it as if it's a secret. And we must remember the Privy Council case of Ambad versus Attorney General. This is a 1936 case. And since then, Trinidad was going to the Privy Council. And in that 1936 case, the Privy Council law lords, in particular Lord Atkin, said justice must not be a cloistered virtue. And I think the present Police Service Commission, under the chairmanship of former Justice of Appeal Judith Jones, will do well to take that advice close to heart and to apply it. Because if they continue in the vein of the former commission, then the public is again going to have doubt and suspicion and is going to feel, well, look, maybe something is being hidden. So I think they need to be frank with the public, they need to be forthright, they need to be credible when they speak to the public, and they need to explain, well, look, either we have found enough evidence to satisfy ourselves and hopefully to satisfy the public that this merit list is still intact and the process has not been so impugned so as to make it, unmeritorious to try to proceed with the merit list, no pun intended. And if it is that they find otherwise and they find that the circumstances are so, convoluted and controversial that there can be no integrity left in this merit list, then they need to also be frank with the public and let us know that and say, well, in those circumstances, they have no choice but to restart the process.
But from what we have in the public domain, according to what the president said, which is when she inquired of the merit list, she was told that they're still into the recruitment process. The reality is
which doesn't make any sense, because how could you have reached to the stage of a merit list and then still at the same time be in the
It was withdrawn.
Process? So, I mean, I myself have said, and I've said it, of course, with the greatest of deference and respect, because I always have the greatest respect for high office holders. I have not been, particularly happy with the statement that was issued from the office of the president. I felt that it in some ways raised more questions than answers, and it didn't settle the public disquiet which attended and surrounded this issue. So, there still are, issues swirling around, questions swirling around, and the public is still in the dark in many ways. So this new Police Service Commission has a tremendous job. I salute these 5 persons who have offered themselves for public service, because it's really public service and it's sometimes a thankless job, but at the end of the day, someone has to step forward and step up to the plate and do it, because the country cannot continue in this rudderless, scenario with no leader at the helm of the police service appointed as a commissioner. Of course, we are grateful for Mr. McDonald Jacob and the job he is doing, but at the end of the day, the law provides for there to be a commissioner of police, and that's what we need to be, appointed and put into place now.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, this new Service Commission has a lot on its back. I mean, these people are already under some form of attack even before they sat down in their respective
that's
chairs.
Right. And, even with that process, I just want to let the public know that when you saw the leader of the opposition indicate that, she did not respond to the president when the president wrote to her about the 5 nominees, some persons felt, well, look, then in that case, the process couldn't go forward. No, that's not correct. In fact, what the Constitution requires is that the president consult. And under the law, consultation means simply that I give you the opportunity to express your views. It doesn't mean that I have to take on your views or even listen to what you say or even, make it form part of my decision making. All I need to do is give you the opportunity. And that was decided in the case of James Alva Bain, also known as Jimmy Bain, right? With the police service, with the Service Commission, where he had a challenge, and it was decided that, look, you were consulted because consultation simply means that I have given you the opportunity to answer.
You know what? Not in Trinidad and Tobago. In Trinidad and Tobago, we believe that consultation is whatever I tell you, you're to do, otherwise it's not
Yes,
consultation.
that's right. You're quite right. They misconstrue it. So that's why I always like to have recourse to the law, so that case of Jimmy Bain is a very useful case to show us what consultation really means.
Martin, are there any circumstances under which this new Police Service Commission can call in the old Police Service Commission so that it can, sit, interview them, talk to them to find out, what really happened, so that they can have a better understanding and possibly explain to us, the public, what really went awry?
Well, I don't know of any formal process where that can be done. I mean, of course, they can invite them to share their views, ideas, or thoughts, but I would prefer, if I were in that position, as a course of prudence, to have recourse to the notes, the documents, the records, the official minutes, rather than to solicit and invite personal views, which could be subject to those individuals putting their own interpretation and spin on it. So therefore, I would prefer if they did not do that, quite frankly, because I think the public will immediately begin to lose confidence in this Police Service Commission if they feel that there's any chance of them being influenced by the personal views of any of the members of that former Police Service Commission. So I would think that the better course of action would be have recourse to your notes, your documents, your records, your minutes, because each meeting has to be minuted and recorded officially, so therefore I would think that those things would be the much better guide. And the staff at the Secretariat are very helpful, so, I mean, they may be able to, fill in the blanks where necessary. So therefore, I would think that that is your preferred course of action. In fact, I would rather strongly recommend against them having any sort of official discussions, with those former members on Police Service Commission business. You could talk about the weather, you could talk about, the color of the sky, or, a beautiful rainbow in the sky, but certainly I would urge them not to have any such discussion with those former members, because once that comes out in the public domain, I think then the Pandora's box will be reopened once again.
Reopen? It has never been closed, darling. That's why we're having this discussion.
Very good point.
It's never been closed, Martin.
You're quite right.
And the thing is, I think
it's just been passed on to new handlers.
Yeah, and I think that I honestly believe that until the former Police Service Commission says something, is that we won't have the answers that we're all seeking as to why that list was withdrawn, and why you're back to the recruitment process, what are the reasons. And to me, it doesn't really matter where the information comes from, since we're told that information to anybody can write to the Police Service Commission if it has concerns. So where the information came from is irrelevant at this point.
That is the Privy Council case of Jamaicans for Justice,
right?
Which is a Jamaican case that went to the Privy Council, and the learning from that case is actually binding upon Trinidad and Tobago, because in that case, the Privy Council said that, look, as a Police Service Commission, you have a duty to act upon and investigate any credible information that is brought to you concerning any candidate who is up for, selection for any high office within the police service. So therefore, they do have a duty to investigate those matters. And that case, Jamaicans for Justice versus Police Service Commission in Jamaica, that is the leading authority, and it's a Privy Council case on the matter.
So then it brings us back to the point. If there was really this high-ranking government official who had information that could have well affected that issue, wasn't it the right thing that was done to withdraw the merit list by the Police Service Commission?
Well, the thing is, you see, the fact scenario, I think, is what has created, the conundrum in this matter. If it is that someone has credible information and they write to the Police Service Commission and they present the information, the evidence, and the Police Service Commission then, in its own independent discretion, investigates and forms its own view when they get the facts, then that becomes their decision, and there's no question of any influence. If, as has been put out in the public domain, and of course, none of this has been verified officially.
And therefore, we
by
shouldn't even
President's
repeat
House
it. It came
or,
only
by
from
any
the
other,
opposition's mouth.
To use your term, high government official. If it is that at the presentation of this merit list, there was some external force which influenced that presentation of the list such that the list was then unpresented, if I could use that term. I mean, it just makes absolutely no sense to anyone in the public, you know, or withdrawn, as was stated by the president's office. You know, I mean, you don't even begin to understand how could that be withdrawn. In other words, if I have presented the list to you, how do I withdraw it? Do I sneak back into President's house under the cover of darkness and pull back? I mean, it's just palpably absurd.
No, but Martin, let me play devil's advocate.
Not been forthcoming, not from anybody. And as I say,
I have a minute left.
Include President's house with that. The explanations have not been satisfactory or adequate, and I say that with the greatest of respect and deference to the office of the president.
I have a minute left. If we understand that, let's say, one of the people on that merit list was being investigated, should that merit list even have gone ahead without the completion of that investigation? That could have affected whether or not the person should have been on the merit list.
Presented
Sorry?
At all, if it is that you knew, because the Police Service Commission, they're the ones who would have compiled the merit list. So if you knew that your investigations were still ongoing and your investigations were incomplete, then one cannot even begin to fathom how could you have presented a merit list and then, you know, the same day, that's what the president's office said in its release. Later that same day, it was immediately withdrawn. I mean, come on. Is it that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing? Is it that your house divided amongst yourself? That, you know, you don't seem to know whether you're going forward or backward. You don't know whether you're running or walking, whether you're standing still or you running for cover. I mean, come on. It's just shambolic in the way that it unfolded. And, you know, I think their lack of candor and forthrightness in coming out to the public and explaining what really transpired, I think that is what has it remaining shrouded in mystery and doubt and secrecy. And as a result, the public has absolutely no faith in what transpired under their watch. And therefore, it puts a greater burden under this present commission. But as I say, they can remove that doubt if they act with, you know, sincerity and clarity and candor with the public and explain to them, okay, look, this is what we found, this is the situation, this is our decision as to how we will proceed. Either we condemn that merit list and we say it is too impugned and tarnished and tattered and torn, or we say, look, notwithstanding all the attendant circumstances surrounding it, we still find, after full examination, that the process remains unimpugned and intact, and the integrity of the procedure remains, and therefore we can proceed with it.
All right, Martin George, thank you so much for lending your legal expertise to the issue. We appreciate you.
Always a pleasure, Natalie, and a great morning to you.
Thank you so much, Martin George. You're a former member of the Police Service Commission. Let us see what this new Service Commission does, but he says there definitely need to be transparency, because if that doesn't happen, damned if they do, damned if they don't.